All right, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, episode number 197 of the Turin Giants podcast. My name is Farhad. I'm the host that loves you most, and I'm joined here for now by my friend Don, part of our Juventus of Chicago official fan club. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Just got back into town Sunday night, feeling good.
Oh, we will talk about that, my friend. Giovanni should be joining us a little later. He's running a little late, and that's okay. We'll start with Don and a huge show planned. We have a lot to talk about. So, without further ado, let's get into it.
Parte del Piero, rete del Piero! Pallone con i contagiri per Nedved, gol! Pirlo, la conclusione in rete! Andrea Pirlo, un gol pazzesco! Del Piero, gol! Alex Del Piero! Gonzalo Pogba, rete! Un gol incredibile! Pogba fa esplodere lo Juventus Stadium!
Oh, sorry, wrong button.
Buongiorno, 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 buongiorno. Come ha detto lei, buongiorno, buongiorno.
You like our intro?
Love it. I love it. I forgot about that.
I guarantee you, there's some games there. So the clips you've been to games live because I know you're a guy who goes and keeps up with Juve no matter how bad they're doing. You go to Turin, and how was the trip to the motherland? I know you just mentioned that you just got back. You went with your boy game against Monza. How was it?
It was great. It's always a joy. The weather was good this time. I've been there twice in the last few months. I was there for the Man City game back
Oh,
in September.
nice.
Really cold, but it was a great game. This time the weather was pretty much perfect all week. In fact, I got a bit of a tan while I was there up in the mountains. So it's
Nice.
always great to be there. We did a lot of cool stuff, which we can talk about. If you're interested.
Let's go. People always go. There's Juve fans that visit Turin every year for the first time. So, tell us that one thing that you do that other people may not know that they should definitely do. Because I know you just mentioned the mountains, and
Yeah.
Turin is such a beautiful place too. It's nature mixed with beautiful city life. That's dedication, man. Going there almost every year, twice a year. Good for you.
Well, I've got a couple of friends there. I loosely call them relatives, but they're not really blood relatives. So I often stay with them. So that definitely helps.
That helps.
I have my favorite little coffee shop that I go to. Um, the name is escaping me at the moment. It's a Neapolitan place actually, and it's just jammed every morning.
Mm,
I go there every single time. It's the first thing I do when I get there. It's the last thing I do before I take the train
mm,
out of town. This time was a little different. We went there for UA, but it was also my son's first time in Italy,
oh
and
wow.
yeah, yeah, he got invited to go to they call it the Juventus training experience,
Hmm.
which is for kids up through I think age 16 is the top end. And when Juventus comes to the States, they give invitations to some of the children who attend the camps. So we spent a whole week, or I spent a whole week watching my son train, but it was really cool because they got to train at Vinovo, they got to train
Wow.
at Volpiano, they got to train out in Cantalupa, which is where the Residence Academy is, up in the mountains. They played a couple of friendlies against some Italian teams. And then I guess the icing on top was we got a private tour of the stadium and got to go on the field. And then all of the kids who participated in the camp, the very last day, they got to go out at the Conte Nasa under the training
Mm,
ground with the first team. And
beautiful.
they created a line and they gave everybody high fives as they were coming through. So I may have sent you some of the pictures. I can send.
Yeah, no, we did post them. And if you're near Chicago area and you're waiting, you're looking for a club to join, please follow us at Juve Chicago. Fun meetings. Everyone's become kind of friendly, so we have our own group chat going. That's awesome. Be honest, secretly, I know there's a very little chance, and that's nothing against your boy, but there's a little chance that he might play for Juve one day, and you're just waiting for that, right?
I think it's a
You-
dad's dream. I probably, we even though we know it's a very remote one, it is every one of us, right? Who's a
That's right.
Juventino and has a
That's
child
right.
who's playing, right? We always want that, but I have a younger son than this one who always likes
Mhm.
to give me a hard time. He tells me he's going to play for Inter.
I was just gonna say, what if one of them plays for Inter?
Yeah, I told him, I was like, listen, you can play anywhere in the world if you get that good, but you just can't play for Inter. That's the only rule we have in this house.
That's what everyone says. It's so crazy how in Italy, the players may be defending a team's color and bleeding for them, but they may be a fan of a and they, growing up, completely different team. Like
Yeah.
from the recent ones, it's Gatti. It grew up as a Torino fan, so I imagine it wasn't a pleasant experience for them when he scored the winning goals against them and celebrated like a crazy man, right?
Yeah. Well, do you remember when Benucci's son was a Torino fan?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Speaking of players and the city, you mentioned in our pre-game text message thread that you bumped into a player, and none other than
Milik.
he's been spotted. He's been spotted.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So over the course of the week, I saw everyone but Vlahovic.
oh my god.
Not on the streets of Turin, but around the Continassa.
Mhm.
I saw Milik downtown. I have no idea what he was doing there. He was coming out of an apartment complex, and so he was. I didn't say anything to him. I generally try not to bother them.
You were just genuinely shocked he's alive.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So, yeah, I
and
didn't.
you were also mentioning the special apartment building to tell because I
Yeah.
didn't know.
So, like I said, I've got a lot of friends who live there. In fact, one of them used to work for Juventus back in the day. He worked inside the stadium, and he pointed out there's an apartment complex that it's owned by Juventus that several
Mhm.
of the players have lived in. Conte lived there for a while. Dybala lived there for a while. So we were down in that area, and that's actually where I saw Milik. And I don't know that he lives there, but he was in that neighborhood at the time. So again, I don't want to create any false information here. I don't know if he was down there, but I did see him on the street.
That's funny because every time either Kevin, our big part of the podcast, when he goes back there, he also travels there a lot. He bumps into someone. He has pictures with Allegri, Ibrahimovic. He saw Nedved, at the same a coffee shop as him. He was just like peeling away with a little doggy in the front seat, which was hilarious because Kevin snapped a photo and just this little dog just chilling in the front seat.
Yeah.
I saw, I don't remember his first name, but Carrera, he was part of Conte's entourage.
Yeah.
Just literally randomly at a train station. Just had to do a double take. Well, I literally just saw a current coach of Juve just hanging out. Yeah, Turin is nice like that. Players don't get bothered, and I imagine living in Paris or Madrid is much tougher than being a player for Juve. And kind of, you go unbothered most of the time, right?
Well, you want to know the most interesting encounter I had in Turin, my first time that I was there during the winter time. This was probably in 2022, 23-ish. So I went to the Juventus Museum because I had never gone in.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I had a ticket for an entrance time, they wouldn't let us in, which was really odd, right? It was the middle of the day. It was open. I said, is it closed? They said, no, it's open. You just have to wait. So I'm waiting there. And then I realized there's a couple of cars parked out front. And then who comes out of the door is John Elkin and a group
Oh wow.
of bodyguards. So for me, like that was actually more interesting than running into a player. Like, 'cause I kind of expect to run into them,
Hmm.
time to time.
That's rare.
Yeah, but he was there, and he had a couple of guys, I assume armed to the teeth. They had their suits on and a caravan of Alfa Romeos, and he just said hello, and I didn't ask him
Very nice.
for stock or anything.
That's a hell of a
Yeah.
celebrity sighting. We just got word from Giovanni that he will be joining shortly. But I'm glad we got this conversation with Don here. I wanted to bring up something. So I always want to give you guys the outline of today's show. So let's do it. Let's dedicate a minute to it. Um, we spoke about Don's visit to Turin. I'm sure the game was fine. We're going to discuss Yildiz and his red card. We'll touch on the game against Monza. Not much. We usually prefer to do the post-game podcasts, which we kind of missed. Just literally no one's schedule was aligning. So sadly, we weren't able to record it, but it was a game against Monza. So um, we'll just mention it. We have a few questions from our Instagram followers. By the way, please feel free to follow us at Turin Giants on Instagram. The best way to reach us and get a DM answer from me or from whomever, but mostly me. Questions are kind of interesting, and I love it because it gives us a chance to talk about something that we originally would not have thought of. So we'll talk about that. We'll answer your questions, listeners. We'll talk about best last minute goals. I posted this thread on Reddit and I completely forgot about it. I randomly just happened upon it, and there's some great questions there. So when Giovanni, joins us at the end of the podcast, we can talk about the greatest last minute winners that you witnessed as a Juve fan. I thought that would be kind of interesting. Also, I want to promote one last thing. I want to promote our new voicemail program. I don't even know how to call it. I need to come up with a cooler name. I basically opened a Google Voice account. And if you, as a listener, would like to hear your voice on a podcast, there's an option where I can save the voicemails. I'm not picking them up. Don't get me crazy. Don't get me wrong. But I will gladly play your messages on the on the podcast. I thought it was a pretty cool thing to try. So the phone number is code for the US is 1-630-426-9290. So pick up the phone right now if you're anywhere in the US or anywhere you want to do it outside of country. One more time, 630, even though there's a I'm pretty sure there's a rewind button on your podcast app, but still 630-426-9290. Talk to us. I thought that would be a pretty interesting thing to try. First thing I want to do is give a shout out to one of our loyal listeners and contributors, Zenon. Zenon is DMing us constantly. So when I put out the bat signal to send us some questions, he said that it's not a question but a rant, and I wanted to hear your opinion, Don. He says that our fans suck, and he's talking about Yildiz's red card over the weekend. Someone's opening the garage door. Give me 1 second. He's saying that our fans suck. I read so many negative comments because this kid got a first red card of his career. People calling him out to be sold in the summer right away. Yes, he's important for us in two very important games. But if we don't have proper replacement for a 19-year-old, then that's a club issue and not the players. So we'll just talk about the red card itself. I don't know about the replacements and all that stuff, but what are your thoughts? Are people overreacting? Because I have some. So I have a screenshot here from Twitter, which I thought was so harsh and so hilarious. Shout outs to at Ersada15. He's not ready to wear the number 10. Poor mentality. He thinks he's a top player. Sell him next season. That's it. It's the So to this fan, it's the end of the world. Sell Yildiz because as a 19-year-old, you're not allowed to get a red card. What are your thoughts on that, Don?
I mean, I've heard some of these comments. I mean, it's looks like we have an interloper here. Hey, you're not on this podcast, Mateo. No. It's one of the most ridiculous things I think I've heard, because I've heard that comment a couple of times, right? A 19-year-old losing his temper at a sporting event, and to think that we want to get rid of someone who, in my opinion, has the potential to be a generational talent is just insane. I mean, the lack of patience that we have sometimes with these players. We forget that he's still an adolescent at the end of the day. So he will learn from this. He's already apologized. He's put out a public statement, which I find to be quite mature. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but as far as I'm concerned, it's very ill timed. It's unfortunate. It's 2 games, so we got the Juventus factor got piled onto the penalty.
Yeah,
But
right.
he'll learn from this.
I don't know. Very bad timing, in my opinion. I love Yildiz, and we'll come back to him like 1,000 times this podcast, but he should know a little better, right? I don't care if you're 19 years old. I'm not talking about selling him, and people are piling on. The comments were, like I said, they were hilarious at some point, but just not good timing. He could afford to do that in the beginning of the season, or before an international break or something like that, but poorly timed. I'm pulling up the Serie A standings right here, and we like to go through upcoming games and kind of, especially now at the end of the season, we have, a very important game against Bologna coming up May 4th. So yeah, not great. But like you said, he better learn from this, right?
Yeah.
He has no other choice.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Yildiz overall? I know we haven't spoken in a while, and I think he's been given number 10 since last we spoke.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, overall, I think he's a fantastic player. I think he is the type of player that makes children want to play football or soccer, depending on how you want to call it, wherever you are in the world. I can tell you that, I just got back from Turin for a week. There was 100 children there from ages 7 until 16. Every single one of those children wanted to, because they were fascinated by how well he plays. Now, not excusing the behavior, but I'm saying let's not overreact to it. Come on. I mean, we've seen a lot worse over the years out of players. And he it's not as if he got defiant after the fact and tried to defend his behavior. He apologized to his teammates, and I think that that's what being a team is sticking behind people when they hit their low points.
So let's welcome Giovanni real quick, and then we'll continue.
Hey,
what's up, dude?
Hey, sorry I'm late. And I was the one that was like, let's start at 7, and then I completely overbooked myself. So
You're good, man. You're good.
So
Uncle Gio, everybody.
Yeah. Oh my God. John, how's it going? It's been a minute.
Giovanni, so we agreed with Giovanni. He's a busy man, and I understand, but people miss him. And
I'm on vacation, dude.
By people, I mean me. Oh, you're on vacation right now?
Yeah, I'm on vacation, but then my mom's heading out of town, and so she had some stuff that I needed to drop off. I do some mentorship stuff that I completely forgot because this is the second week that I'm doing it, and so I'm not organized. That's what the problem is. I'm not.
It's
organized.
all good, man. It's all good. We were talking about Don's visit to Turin and how out of 100 kids, 100 wanted to meet Yildiz, and we were actually on the topic of Yildiz and his red card, his apology. Don gives him a pass. He's a young kid, but I'm saying it was just bad timing. And we read a comment from Instagram saying, we can't find a replacement for a 19-year-old. That's a big issue. But I don't think it's a matter of replacing him. He just lost his cool. I understand. At 19 years old, I was so stupid. So gotta cut him
Yeah,
some
and
slack.
I have to say, overall, he's a very professional kid, right? Like, and I
I
think,
agree.
I mean, the way that I looked at it is like a mixture of like kind of like losing his cool, like he kind of, but like, like we've seen other fouls like that have kind of gone under the radar. And I think I'll just boil it down to like at any other point in the season, whatever, right? You weather the storm. Yeah, just poor timing. That said,
Mhm.
I'll just validate your point of like, look, we're at we've got like what, four games left. Like, if we can't like have some fortitude as a team to hold on to the fourth place, then we probably don't deserve to be in the Champions League. Because I don't
Mhm.
think, yeah, I mean, let's just put it that way. You know?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, our future is in our own hands at this point, right?
Mhm.
Win our 4 games, we're in, no matter what. Nobody can take that from us.
Yeah, 100%. And I think over the weekend too, Bologna, didn't they lose? And then,
They
yeah, to
tied.
Udinese.
They
Yeah.
tied. Yeah, they
Oh, they
tied.
tied? Okay.
They tied.
Sorry.
So our upcoming games, like I mentioned, May 4th, away at Bologna. We are away at Lazio May 10th. May 18th, home with Udinese, and then away at Venezia. So three away games and one home game. Whatever games we were allowed to lose or tie, we already did. So these 4 games need to be 16 points, or not 16 points, 12 points, no questions asked, right? So, yeah, bad timing. I really hope somebody steps up. I've been really impressed by Turam. It's a completely different story from the beginning of the season when the other guys on the podcast were clowning on me because I just didn't see what was so special. But I like the progress of Turam so far. Really like it.
But is a solid box to box. Like, he reminds me of like, not to age myself, but like he reminds me of like, old school like box to box players like Vieira, like during his
Mhm.
Arsenal, even Juventus days, like real, gritty work. But I think it just, it's not flashy, but it has an impact. It has an outside impact, like in what it does. I think we just got like really spoiled with Pogba, who like he was one of one. I think in the evolution of like the box to box player, given his size, how dynamic he was, like how good he was on goal, and you saw that like once. And I think it also had to do with the way that we played him. And then once he left that, and I think he only like captured that with like France. But besides that, like Pogba kind of lost himself, unfortunately, right? Like,
Mhm.
forget the whole thing with his family and whatnot. But between injuries, between I would say just lack of stability at his time in Manchester, right? I think we got spoiled. I'll just say that.
Moving on to another player of Pogba's caliber, and actually Don mentioned him, and we were on the text message thread all together. How he bumped into Milik, and I literally have a meme on our Instagram account where I asked Chat GPT to create a, yeah, you guys can see that
Yeah, there's a glare.
picture of Milik on a milk carton missing, and Don goes there and just kind of locates him. So, one of the biggest news from last week or, last couple of days was Milik has extended his contract with Juventus for 1 more year, spreading over 2 seasons. The salary he has originally set to receive until June 30th, 2026. The striker continues his rehabilitation in an attempt to recover from the injury that has kept him sidelined since last summer. If anyone, I understand the absurdity of it because believe me, a lot of replies came to me on Instagram. But if one of you two can make sense of this, I would love to hear.
It's easy.
There were certainly some positive comments as well. Like once he recovers, what's going to happen. But I know Don wants to
It's purely a financial decision, right? Because
Okay.
they can spread the money over more years. From an accounting perspective too, like from his original purchase. I mean, it's nothing more than that. It's a pure business decision. In fact, I doubt that we'll ever see him on the field again with the Juventus jersey. I
Wow.
mean, that's my take.
Is that
Yeah.
what he told you? Hot take?
No, he didn't tell me that, but I do know that the financial component is a fact, right? And that's been floating around. And all the funny business that goes on with the players and the amortization that goes on, like after you pay the initial purchase and how it's spread versus the
Sure.
gains that are gained in the first year. It's a bit convoluted, but yes, they've made decisions like this in the past that make zero sporting sense. But it's all financial.
It is what I would call publicly traded company accounting. That, to simply put it, for people that don't care about finance, it's just very creative accounting. But I'll ask you, Don, how gingerly was he walking? Was he walking on both pegs pretty well, or was it kind of like just dragging along?
Did you run after him?
No, I did not. I did not.
So,
but yeah,
I know I arrived late, but Don, was it your first time in Turin?
No, we talked about that a little bit. I generally go twice a year, if not 3 times a year, like to watch games and whatnot. But my son was there for the Juventus experience, which is a week of training, right, with the Juventus coaches, and which was an experience in and of itself, just to sort of see the inner workings of how the club.
So it wasn't just a tourist trip. It was, you literally got to go into the bowels of the operation.
Yeah, just meet a lot of people. We stayed at the J Hotel.
Nice.
And we saw all of the training grounds, worked with the coaches. I mean, I could go on and on about that particular experience. So if you have children or if you're interested in that world, it's quite eye-opening. Just the level of talent already that you see, at that age, right? We're talking 8, 9, 10 years old, right? These kids are already, playing at a level that I didn't play at until I was a teenager.
That's amazing. Well, yeah, I mean, you see some of these kids. What's his name? Yamal, the kid from Barca. Just, we're just watching the game with my son. It's just unbelievable, and those kids just geniuses. They stand out. It's like a lifestyle back in Europe, and people here in America. It's for kids, it's an activity whether you want it or not. But it's like a completely different mindset over there. They're beasts over there.
I don't have a kid, but my cousin was like a pretty good collegiate, soccer player. But I feel like in the U.S. is like it's a little bit more. It's more, I would say, kind of like monetized. Like you got to have a little bit of funds to be able to kind of like get to any sort of level where you have like really good coaches and a little bit more structure that can kind of propel you and like what your career and whatnot. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. And to your point of like Yamal, I mean, everybody knows like the Barcelona cantera, like it's been like churning out talents for 30 something years. And I think I'll just go back to the fact that like I look at Italy, and I know it's come up a couple of times in the podcast, but I'll just go back to like Italy and just the fact that like just like a lack of talent like coming out like from Italy that is so sad, man. Like a buddy of mine was like, "Hey, are you gonna buy tickets to the World Cup here in the US?" I'm like, "Only if Italy makes it. Otherwise, I don't give a shit." You know what I mean? Like, and there's no guarantee. They've shown us that they haven't made the World Cup in a couple of editions. So yeah, something to think about.
Yeah, we're just talking about. I was at a party with a friend. I just saw an old friend who's a big Milan fan. He's an immigrant from Italy, and we're talking about how last 2 World Cups, the kids don't know. Like some kids only watch the World Cups. They have no idea about Italy. And that was me in 1994, which was my first World Cup. There was no France. So for 4 years until, France, were they in the Euro 96? I think I don't think they were in Euro '96 either. They
I
were
think
in.
it was Euro '96 in England, but I think they were just building like that team that would then take the '98. But
Let me Google that. But
yeah,
anyways, for basically 2 World Cups, kids don't know about the beauty of an Italian national team. So that sucks. They definitely need to make it this time around.
What's really interesting is all the success they've had at in the younger age groups, right below the senior team, right? The under 21, the under 20, I think it's the under 19. I mean, they all went very far, right, or won, right, at those age brackets. So I think a lot of people are hopeful that the younger generations coming up have the talent. So it's been a bit of a dry spell and a little bit of bad luck too. I mean, let's be honest. When we didn't make the last World Cup, I think we had lost 1 out of 38 games. After we won the Euros, there was a couple of ties in there. But when we lost to North Macedonia, people forget that was the first loss. Like we had the record in Europe for the most consecutive games not losing, right? So we had that. Then we had a team who won really at the end of their careers. Most of them, very few of those players were young, so they were aging out already, and we were about to refresh. So it was just a little bit of bad luck, a little bit of timing, and an exhausted squad that had a few bad breaks and had to play that playoff in a one game.
I remember one moment from there where the coach, who was it, Ventura, he's asking, I don't remember who it was, but they were basically telling De Rossi to come out, and he's like, I refuse. You need to put a forward in. Insigne is sitting there. So it just showed how the team was managed.
that
Poorly
that
the
was
team was managed.
before the Euro win. It was Mancini. But I'll say this to like Don's point. I think the refresh, like I think when you brought it up, it kind of reminded me like kind of growing up, watching like what were like excellent and I will say underachieving national sides in Italy, like late '80s, early '90s. It was all superstars. There were like players that would be riding the bench that would be killing it right now, like
Mhm.
Beppe Signori, like Berti, like a bunch of people. And I think what's been happening is that refresh is just happening a lot slower. Like there's not a lot of like mixing like old talent with new talent and like bringing it up. I think that's been like the biggest challenge that I've seen in like the later years, like post 2006.
Yeah,
So but it's
yeah,
really good to see. Like you did bring up like the silver lining is like the junior teams that are coming up. I just would love to see the Serie A, like the National League, be able to incentivize homegrown talent. And then
Mhm.
I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Excuse me, till I'm blue in the face. To me, Juventus should act like Bayern Munich. They should just corner the market on
Yeah,
Italian talent. Finito.
I
that's right.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, I guess there's 2 points I'll say. One on the national team. I think the national team. If you look at the talent on the national team, I don't feel that it's as bad as people make it out to be. We've got the best goalkeeper in the world, right? In my opinion, by far. Okay. The defense is relatively strong, right? And we've got a midfield, right? If anybody could tell me that Tonale uh, and Barella aren't great midfielders, right? Like some of the best midfielders in Europe, I would take issue with that. Now but we do lack a couple of key pieces, and we definitely lack, right, in the striker department. We haven't had a great striker for, I don't know, it's been a decade or more. But I could not agree with anyone more than you, Gio, because Juventus needs to do, right, what the team in Milan, whose name we won't mention, right, does, which is build a strong Italian core and augment that. Right? Italian players, right, are easier to keep in Italy, right? We don't have to overpay them, right? There's a certain prestige that comes along if you're Italian and you play for one of the big clubs in Italy, right? And let's be realistic as well. Like no Italian club at this moment, not even Juventus, is in a financial position to go chasing, 80 to 100 million dollar players, right, to try to build a winning squad. Like we have to do it organically. So I'm right there with you on that one.
And we were just talking about it I'm in two different chats with Don, and he was mentioning he was kind of supporting or defending Juve when I mentioned, or someone mentioned, that Barca has an amazing youth program, and you just rattled off maybe like 5-6 players that Juve brought up and made great. They just chose to sell them. So there's Sule. Isn't it funny that two last games that Inter lost came from Juve's to be greats, right? Orsolini, killed him in the last minute, and then
Sule.
Sule, yeah.
Then
Right.
Dean Heisen is doing well.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
Keane, like I think you mentioned, like lack of strikers for the national team, but Keane has been so far pretty solid at Fiorentina. And I mean, I think what he lacks is consistency. Like if he had consistency, he would be so solid. Yeah, and I just wonder, like, where was the plot lost in like building the team? Because those are like homegrown players. There's a bunch of advantages to kind of keeping those players on your roster. And they don't cost much. Absolutely. Right. Yeah. Strange.
By the way, couple of program notes. Giovanni texted me on a private message that France was in fact in Euro 96. They just didn't go too far, and I forgot to play a brand new sound drop for Giovanni.
The Force will be with you always.
Hold on.
The Force will be with you always.
It's cut off in the beginning, but you get the point.
Star Wars Day in like 4 days,
and we're playing Bologna on May 4th.
Oh, hey, hopefully the Force is with us.
Force is with them. That's right. There's a bone I have to pick with Don. I have nothing but respect for Don, but he knows what I'm going to talk about. Since Inter played today against Barcelona, he did, and that actually prompted me to post a poll on our Turin Giants Instagram page. Defend yourself, young man. I'm putting you on the spot. You told me that Inter winning the Champions League would be good, and you're sort of kind of supporting them. Or am I getting it wrong? I'll give you a chance.
Well, I said Inter doing well in the Champions League benefits Juventus. Now, mathematically, they can't help Serie A get that fifth spot any longer after Lazio crashed out, right, of their European competition. However, right, and this is just my point of view, okay? I'll never support Inter openly, right? I'm never going to support Inter against Juventus, right? However, what I am saying is it has been now 15 years since an Italian team has won the Champions League.
Sure.
15 years. I want you to think about that. And in order for Juventus, along with the rest of the clubs in Italy, to get the money that they need, the sponsorships that they need, right, the television rights and the revenue that goes along with that, Italian teams have to make themselves known and play well on the world's biggest stage. Now, so for me, it's more about I'm supporting Italy and Serie A, not Inter. And the fact that it just happens to be Inter, right, who's made it to the semis in the Champions League is just more coincidental than anything. So, nobody wants to see their biggest rival do well. However, what I am saying is the situation in Italy, we've got crumbling stadiums, okay, right? Our three biggest teams, right, can no longer financially compete, right, with the biggest teams in England, Spain, right, or the biggest team in Germany at this point, right? And a lot of work has to be done through the youth sector, but part of that is the marketing of the league itself is dependent on having stars on the world's biggest football stage, right? And for clubs anyway, do well. in those competitions.
But it's Inter.
Listen, I get that. I get that.
I'm
It's
just
not
being a
about
pain in the ass. I'm just being a pain in the ass. No, listen. The replies. Let me ask you guys. What do you think? Let me see. So we had.
While you look that
Uh,
up, Farhad, just want to jump in on Don's comment. I partially buy what you're putting down, right? Like I think it's good for Italian sides to be like to reaching the final. Like it's so hard for me to say go ahead and win the Champions League, Inter, right? I would love
hmm,
this is what I would love. I'd love them to make it to the final, and I want it to be like a fantastic, super entertaining final, and then they lose. That would be just chef's kiss. I think the biggest challenge with Italy is that, oh my God, and I don't want to you know, just open up a can of worms, but I think the biggest challenge that we had was the whole Calciopoli situation, where we just completely lost the focus of like growing Serie A, and even just like we lost Juventus for about a year and a half in a pivotal time when the Premier League was just growing their revenue through TV. Spain kind of like cornered the market as like the second major league in Europe, and Germany was just coming off of like renovating all of their stadiums for the World Cup. The biggest issue that we have with stadiums isn't necessarily that we don't go to the Champions League or we don't perform well in the Champions League. It's just Italian bureaucracy, and I hate to say that because it's a century old problem. I mean, like there are so many things that the Italian government could do to facilitate like renovation of stadiums. It's like I mean, soccer and tourism around soccer is a big revenue builder for Italy. Why are you not adjusting the stadiums? Why are you not also kind of removing some of the BS that you kind of see that happens at stadiums that is like uniquely Italian with the ultras? Like, look at what happened with Roma and Lazio. Like, it just that's not really
you're
something
talking about the Shanks.
in like foreign money at the end of the day, because let's be real, like Italians in Italy, a lot of them will go to the stadium, but when it comes to like shelling out like for premier games, it's kind of hard. It's more like folks like us that go there and are like, yeah, this is great, like I'm treating myself, I'm gonna go to 2 games, I'm gonna go to the hotel, I'm gonna give my son the Juventus experience, right? So I think there's a lot more that can be done that's like table stakes that the government could help with, right?
Sure.
And I hate to see it not happen. And it's
I
been
mean,
like for 20 years.
just look at Maurizio and around Turin. He literally turned his organization into he's now an official travel agent. So he knew that there's something needs to be done about tourists coming and enjoying Juve, and he literally created a business around it, and he's doing great. So if ever any of you guys or any of you guys listening go to Turin for the game, please reach out to Maurizio at around Turin. Like he's untouchable by Juventus now. Agnelli was battling him, you know, because they didn't want him to be the monopoly, but he turned it into a successful business. So maybe that's something the teams should do. Don't let a private citizen to create a business, surrounding your.
But
What's
that's
up?
like a small fraction of the money. Like I'll give you an example because I live in Milan. I went back there when I went to go watch Juve, and I went to go catch the Bears in Europe, and they've been going back and forth with with the city of Milan on like building a stadium of ownership for Milan and Inter, and people like the city of Milan is saying, oh, you can't you know take down San Siro because it's they gave it like a historical it's like
Landmark.
a historical building, kind of the same thing that Soldier Field has here. Like you can't touch it, and you're like, okay, well, it doesn't make sense financially for me to like tear down little by little. They're like, okay, we can keep the colonnades that are so iconic, we can do a few things, but there's no really meeting in the middle. And I don't, yeah, it's hard. And again, like I don't want to come at it from like a purely like American like point of view, which is like very business friendly. But holy
Sure.
shit, man! Like San Siro is such a pain in the ass to get to. And living in Milan, like I would rather sit my ass at home than go watch a game in San Siro. To be
That's how I
honest,
feel about Soldier Field.
well, then you see it. There you go.
I think like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to get hyper focused on the stadium problem is deeply ingrained and culturally, and then from government bureaucracy, like if you throw those things in, right? I guess the original point I'm going at is we've got a bunch of systemic problems going on across the board, the stadiums being one of them. But to have Italian teams do well in Europe, I think I'll die on that hill that it is good for Serie A, because the biggest way that we get out earned by the Spaniards and the English is TV viewership and TV rights and the ability to sell those. Part of that's on the leadership of Serie A to market it globally and sell it. And I could go into a bunch of stories about how awful, right, we've done there in some key markets. But the point being is, I don't care if it's Inter, Milan, Fiorentina, Juventus, right? For as a league, for us to do well in Europe, I do think is important, right? I don't want to. I'm never going to throw my weight behind Inter, right? Nor Milan, nor any other team in the world.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Next thing I know, your kid is going to an Inter academy and you're an Inter dad. But let me tell you this. So I want to hear both of you guys real quick. So after posting a poll on our Instagram, please follow us at Turin Giants. So the question was, as a Juve fan, do you secretly root for Inter in this Champions League? How the percentage of people who said, I'm doing it for Italy? What do you think the percentage of Juventini who thought the poll was anonymous? But I got you all. I'm looking at the results and I'm looking at your yes answers, and I'm shaking the fist in the camera if you're watching this on YouTube or Instagram or on Spotify. Tell me what the percentage of Juve fans secretly. Don't go. I think somebody just went on Instagram to check.
What I want to go look. I'm guessing it's low, and you're going to hit me over the head with it. But
no, it's actually 16% of Juve fans are rooting for Inter in this Champions League.
I was 30-something%. Honestly,
you thought it was 30?
Yeah, because I'm rooting for them to make it to the final. I'd love to see I want them to get to the final. I want to see like a 4-4 regular time.
No, God, please, no.
These, I will never get used to these sound bites. But anyways, like 4-4, get to the penalties, heartbreaking.
4-4.
Yeah, why not? It was 3-3 today.
You're mad. I don't know, man. Get to the
thing
final, but lose 3-0. How about that?
One thing I want to say, we all dogged Marotta when he was our sporting director. We all complained about the dumbest shit. Oh, we don't sell our players for any profit, blah, 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 blah. Look at what he did to Inter.
Yeah,
and I'll also say, remember when he was like, hey, I think we need to switch up coaches, and Simone Inzaghi was just rumored, just swirling around Juventus. Man, if I could take a time machine, I would have never gotten rid of Beppe Marotta, ever. Anyways, here we are.
Yeah, he sure knows how to do things, right? Let me get to the next question, you guys. Giovanni, you like this. Our friend of the podcast, Michael Calabrese. He's Giovanni smiling. You're what do you call it? Compatriot?
His family probably emigrated from Calabria, so probably.
Yeah. So Michael is good people. He's asking, and I'll start because I don't want to put my guests on the spot. So I'll start, and I wrote them down. And then you guys can think of your answers. He's asking, who are 3 untouchables for next season? And I'm pretty sure we're going to agree on at least 2 of them. If you boys are ready to go, please do. But I have my answers here ready to go. So I imagine these are the players that are probably going, but you're not allowed to touch them. It's I wrote down Locatelli, but like, what are the chances Locatelli is going to go, right? So who are the players that, especially if we don't make the Champions League, are going to be on a fire sale that we need to desperately keep? So to me, number one, Yildiz, the magic boy. I mean, the star boy. Every time he touches the ball, it's one of those players that just magic happens. Pogba was one of these players. I want to be entertained as a fan of the game, and I feel like when Yildiz picks up the ball, you get excited, right? Bremer, can't touch him, right? Let him get better. We all know how much we missed him this season, and I wrote Di Gregorio, but then again, I would go against my own. Because nobody. Well, was there any rumors of Di Gregorio, right? Like, I think a couple of weeks ago.
There was a few weeks ago, but it was short lived, and I don't know that it
It was
had.
one of those things that died the next day. If the rule of rumors in Italy and the newspapers, if it dies down the next day, you just have to wait. Don't get excited. It's like Neymar coming to Juve every season, right? The next day, everybody forgot about that. So it's a whole different thing we can discuss. And I know Giovanni reads Italian newspapers. The whole thing in Italy is just so crazy with the press. What do you guys think? Granted, we do. We don't know if we're going to make the Champions League or not. Like how untouchable Yildiz is if we don't make the Champions League, and we need cash. You know what I mean? So it's a great question, but only after we make the Champions League, hopefully, right?
Yeah, I don't think that there's. I mean, from a fan point of view, I think we can come up with that list really easily. I think minus Champions League money, everybody's for sale at the right price. And I think,
Yeah.
and I'm just throwing numbers out there. I think once you get to the 80 to 100 million mark,
Mm-hmm.
right, every team's going to take that call, right? It's very rare, right, that you're going to refuse to engage in that discussion. I mean, you hear about, I remember when Harry Kane, when they tried, Harry Kane was looking at being purchased, the offer on the table was 150 million pounds or euros, right? I know that was declined, but if you're a club in Italy at the current moment and someone offers you 80 to 100 million for a player, I mean, that's enough cash to rebuild, your entire back line, as an example. Right? It's just tough to sort of walk away from that kind of money at the current
Yeah.
moment. But from a fan's perspective, right, for me, Yildiz and Bremer for sure, assuming, I'm taking a leap of faith that Bremer's going to come back and at least be 90% of his former self, which is still probably the best defender in Serie A. Yildiz for sure, just based on pure talent. I struggle to come up with that third spot. Like you,
Are you letting go Cambiaso to Manchester City?
at the reported number.
I can see that.
At the reported numbers, if it at a cut rate price, no.
Oh, okay.
I'll give you two scenarios. Champions League scenario, no Champions League. All right.
Yes,
With
sir.
the Champions League, right, of course, I would build on Yildiz, right? It goes without saying. He's very young, and I think with the right nurturing, he can grow. And, let's be honest, he's not going to stay at Juventus for the rest of his career. I think I'd give him maybe 3 years, and then he's off to the highest bidder, which is fine. I think it has to be. It's a tie between Turam and Coop Miners, because Coop Miners has been underperforming, and at maximum potential, he's a game changer in Italy. And I think Turam is young enough that he can grow. And then on defense, it's Bremer. No Champions League. I would say in defense, it's Gatti, because he's always going to stay. And I think he just gets dogged. I don't know why. He's not very flashy, and people like to shit on him. I don't get it, but he's super solid. It would have to be, again,
Gatti is Chiellini with more hair and less talent, but he's got the drive.
but I remember when Chiellini first came from, I think it was
Fiorentina.
Fiorentina, yeah, he was kind of dog shit, and he improved. Same thing with Bonucci, and he improved. So again, going back to coaching and nurturing, Thuram again, because I think he was so low cost, it doesn't make sense for us to get rid of him, and I think also his dad would just beat him up if he left Juventus. And up front, oh god, I don't know. At that point, I'm with Don. Anybody that comes with a
Well,
bad
according to Juve, Milik is untouchable, right? They secure.
forget Milik, like, we don't need to talk about him. But like anybody that comes with a bag of money can take anybody up front. But I don't know. Let's
But
just assume that
so tell me this, Giovanni. No Champions League scenario. Who goes? Give us the complete opposite. Like who do we need to unload to make the most amount of money? Yildiz goes,
anybody that comes with a bag of cash. To me,
but
Cambiaso,
who are they coming for?
whoever, like I would come for Cambiaso. And here's the thing, Cambiaso is another. Remember Alexandro's scenario, like 10 years
I
ago,
always
and
bring it
everybody was
up.
like, you can't sell Alexandro. If Guardiola came with 70 million at the time, I would have packed Alexandro's bag and just shipped him off FedEx, right? But we didn't, and then you see the diminishing returns, right? If you get 70 million from for Alexandro, maybe you don't sell Pogba, maybe you pay him what he wants to get paid, and maybe there's a different story, and maybe there's a Champions League in the middle of it. So Cambiaso, he can go. Yildiz as well. Like it just depends on the monies, man. Because at that point, you just focus on Serie A, but you need to focus on it with a proper coach. Like I keep saying that we've been missing the coach for a while.
I'm surprised we're not talking about who we need to sell. We need to sell Vlahovic.
Oh,
Okay.
done deal.
But here's the thing, right? You think about just not having to pay his wages. His wages are going up to 15 million. Okay, that's net. Okay, not to mention the fact and then what he's worth on the books. Just getting rid of him alone, right, solves a lot of the problems. Not to mention the fact that he's severely underperformed at his price tag, right, since day one. You know, but but the question is who is going to pay that kind of money for him? Who's going to pick up that last year of his contract? He next year with that salary, he will be a top 5 paid striker in Europe, not in Italy, in Europe, at 15 million.
He'll go to the Premier League.
We're in Arsenal super sweet on him, and we kind of snatched him from under their noses, and
I don't know that they are now that they've seen him play now for 4 years in a row.
Yeah, his price that I saw somewhere 30 mil asking price. Maybe he'll go for 20 or 15. I was just depressed. Yeah, I saw that somewhere, but
again, no, man. Like, okay, we obviously can't pump up the price, but 30 mil.
Yeah, that was my
overpays for dog shit players. You know what? I'll make it a matter of pride. No way. But yeah, you're Don. You're completely correct. Like I think I completely forgot about Vlahovic. Like he's got to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I think 30 million, that number that's getting thrown around Farhad is mostly that's what we need to avoid a loss on the books for him. So that's where that number is sort of being fabricated from.
Well, my theory was the first game when Tudor in charge, first game, somebody asked us about, how he started Vlahovic right away. And my theory, I'm half joking. I said somebody with a black suitcase and a black tie came to Juve and came to the coach and said, listen, we need to showcase to Italy or whoever wants to buy Vlahovic that he's still got it, right? There's no way you're not starting him because Mota benched him. That was a big problem. And then we need to play him. So it's not like he's been shining for us ever since Tudor started starting him. And now he's injured, right? So my point being is he didn't exactly raise his price
No.
in the last 3-4 games, right? just being Vlahovic, right? It must be so hurtful to a striker when kids start making these compilations and uh, the videos of your awful misses, right? And there's been a lot the last few games from Vlahovic, unfortunately,
My
right?
7-year-old son was calling him Misalovic as he was watching off, and
Nice.
I had to remind him where we were to dial that.
Well, Freddie, one of our podcast co-hosts, he calls him Susan Vlahovic. So I even have a bonus points if somebody can tell me which movie this is from.
So what should I call you? Should I call you Bullet, Tooth?
You can call me Susan if it makes you happy.
Snatch.
Snatch. There you go, my guy. By the way, I've been hearing great things about Guy Ritchie's new TV show on Paramount Plus, Mobland.
Mobland.
Are you watching it?
I'm only, I think, 3 episodes in.
It's great. Tom Hardy for
Oh,
me.
so good.
Tom Hardy, top 5 actors, and Tom Hardy playing a dirty gangster in England. Give me that any day. I'm finishing Conclave right now, but I will jump to Mobland for sure. Mobland, awful name, but I hear great things about the show.
It's quite good.
I freaking love Guy Ritchie, man. By the way, good job, Giovanni. Who wants to talk about potential? I'm sorry, I missed your name. I will credit this person later, but real quickly, I know our questions that go on for we've been on for an hour already. Oh my goodness! Quick, if one of you guys wants to take this one on, looking at our current roster, we talked about selling players, but this listener is asking, who is a no-brainer for you at Juventus? For you that Juventus have to target and bring in? We always talk about potential targets and stuff like that, but let's make it a little easier. Let's see which position needs to be filled currently at Juve after the season. Giuntoli did the whole rebuild. Who do you think is still missing on the roster?
I think
Nobody.
One. I mean, if you gave me, here's your wish list, and I had to balance that with somebody that I think we could realistically get, right? I think we would get back one of the Italian players. For me, it would be either Calafiori or Tonali. Like, assuming we can get a swap deal in place for Douglas Luiz, right? Just based on his pedigree in the Premier League, I think I would probably put it down to one of those two. Calafiori's more so because of his defensive capabilities, but his ability to sort of push forward, right, and help unbalance the other team, which is why Malta was so successful in his system, right? When he played at Bologna, that would probably be my number one, and my number two would be Tonali.
I'll just go back to need, because I think you said, who do we need to sell? And that was Vlahovic, and that to me creates a hole. I think we're kind of okay everywhere else. I think we had some bad injuries, right? But if we sell Vlahovic, I think we need a striker. And I think say that one more time.
We need 2.
I will focus on the one that takes the place of Vlahovic. So to me, if Vlahovic is gone, I think you go with Victor Osimhen, which I think is like like a target of like Giuntoli. Giuntoli kind of got him from Lille to Napoli, and I think now like nobody stays in Turkey long term, and I think that's a realistic buy between I think it would come in a little bit cheaper than Vlahovic, and I think you can work with Galatasaray on the fee. Yeah.
Quickly, Don, you texted you private messaged us that you have to go. I just want to make sure that you get to say goodbye, and we'll stay with Giovanni, record for a few more minutes. Don, always a pleasure, dude. I'll see you at the next Juventus Chicago meeting, right?
Yeah, that's right, buddy. Take care. Good to see you again, Gio.
Thanks for joining us, buddy. Appreciate you. All right, dude. Just two of us now.
Yeah. Oh
Which I
man,
kind of
this is very reminiscent.
I know. If for all of you folks don't know, the second lineup of after I left. By the way, okay, let me circle back a little bit. Episode 300 of our podcast is coming up, which is super exciting. For episode 300, I wanted to bring back all of the hosts and all of the guys and all of my dear friends that helped us, except the two, but all of the guys who helped us and helped this podcast into season number 13. So it's definitely I'm the minority. I want to say thank you to all of the people who and all of my co-hosts who have helped me throughout the years. And the second, when I left when I left LA, I always tell the story of watching Juve in Chicago at a bar here, and Giovanni gives me the best compliment. He says, "Hey man, I love what you're doing with the podcast," and I'm like, "You want to be on it?" And we just gelled. We've been friends ever since. I think it was 2016. And yeah, Giovanni, just like old times, but except we used to do it in person at Giovanni's house, which is super fun because I love recording online, but being with someone in the same room is a completely different experience. But
And there was no video. It was just
that's right. That's
I
right.
love that, man. And I remember like, just so I came here for college 2002. And first of all, I was such a pain in the ass to like get Serie A. I didn't get Serie A. I was just, just whatever, just reading the, Gazzetta
I
online,
can imagine not being able to watch it. That's crazy.
Champions League games here and there. Like, thankfully, we've evolved here in the U.S. to really, enjoy soccer and like make it widely available. But I was just missing just like, that kind of like Juventus community. And so I was like
Mm.
starting to get into podcasts at the time. And I was like, let me just Juventus podcast. And
Mhm.
yours came up first,
Love it.
clicked on it. And I was like, all right, these dudes know what they're talking about.
And I always say for Giovanni, I hold in the highest regard. And I'm not just because you hear it's, people love when you're on the podcast. I always get the kindest replies. Not to, diminish any of other, but people kind of remember you as an old host, and people who've listened to us for a while. They have a special place in their heart for you. But like I will always say, I love all my co-hosts. You guys are always, you guys all rock. But anyways, Giovanni, just two of us. What I like to do is go back in time a little bit. You weren't on the show yet. You were not logged in yet. There was an old thread that I posted on Reddit, and I want to revisit it because I'll tell you why. A couple of days ago, there was an anniversary. So it was 2018, 2007. It's been 7 years since the famous win at San Siro, where Higuain, the great comeback. I asked, I've been looking for a clip to play, but I couldn't find it in Arabic. It's the famous Pipita, Pipita, Pipita. You know the game I'm talking about? We
I
kept
even know the call as well.
the
Yeah.
Arabic guy.
Yeah. It's a good one.
I don't
I
know
hope
what
you find
happened.
it. You need to post it on Instagram.
Dude, I cannot find it anywhere, but I
Ask
did
the
post.
Reddit community. I'm sure somebody will find it.
I know. I asked my guy who does all multimedia and stuff, but I'll post it for sure. But that's anyways. It's the anniversary, and I did some digging on Reddit, and I posted the greatest last minute winners in Juventus history, or memory of the fans, current fans. Obviously, they're we forget that there's Juventus is over 100 years old, so I'm pretty sure we're missing something. But I do have a list here in front of me, and maybe if you have something to say about a particular game and some memory that you have. But I did want to mention the game against Inter and Higuain's famous goal. Right? People forget that Dybala was the sub. We all know Dybala has the free kick, and somebody commented on our Instagram video today that the placement was so perfect by Dybala that all Higuain really needed to do is just give a little nod to it, right? But people also forget that Dybala came on as a sub, and he actually earned that free kick as well. He came in guns blazing, earned the free kick, took the free kick himself. Yeah, Dybala. We can dedicate literally a segment to Dybala, but I didn't want to mention him, and Higuain gets all the credit, but I didn't want to mention that Dybala had a great little segment of time during the game where he contributed a lot, and I'll never forget it. It was a game I watched with my dad. I waited all day because it was my niece's birthday, and I obviously was at the birthday party. It was during the day, but avoiding social media in 2018 was a task on its own. And coming home, and my mom literally had to. I was visiting LA, visiting my parents. I don't live with my parents, but I was visiting them, and my mom had to close the windows because the yelling at home was just incredible. It was so worth it. Some of the best games that I've watched personally have been the ones that I avoided all day. I remember when we beat Chelsea in 2000 in the Champions League 3-0 at home. I remember not following any scores, and that's the game where I think it was Di Matteo was their coach. He got fired after that game.
Oh wow, we're
So
talking ages ago.
we were talking ages ago. So it's I know it's difficult nowadays, but put your phone in airplane mode and just make sure to watch the game live. You know, a lot of people are busy. But yeah, it was one of those games that I avoided all day, and it was so worth it. It was such a beautiful comeback. But do you have any memories associated with that game?
Not with that game in particular, and like the threat, man. I mean, I wonder if somebody put like a top 10 of like last minute winners of last minute ties. The one that comes to mind for me
Oh, I mean,
is,
there's no list, but I have all of them in front of me. So if you mention something,
well, I'll just share the one that comes to mind to me, which
yes,
is the
sir.
one from it's the Derby della Mole, so against Torino,
Sure,
and it was 2002, and we had Enzo Maresca as a
that's right. The
midfielder. I
famous
think
celebration.
isn't he the coach of Chelsea? Right, he's a Chelsea coach.
Is he?
I don't know, but I think so. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's the one
Unbelievable.
where like we don't even win the game. It's a tie, but then he goes and he puts his and then he mimics the
The
bull.
the horns, baby. Yeah.
That was so good.
That's awesome. That's a good callback. That's actually a profile picture of Rav. Again, I'm giving shout outs to all of our co-hosts. Rav, he had it for the longest time, the famous celebration. Well, let's take a trip down memory lane, right? Um, he first one with the most upvotes is Higuain's goal, and that comeback win against Inter will be always my favorite. So that one is very special. One another game and another goal is one of those goals where I yelled just involuntarily. It just came out of me because the game was so intense. It's the goal that Pirlo scored against Torino. You just mentioned the Torino.
The 96th minute one and 97th minute one.
I think it was
Right?
93rd. We actually, Turin Giants, we released shirts with that, with the picture of uh, Pirlo scoring that goal. And it was just another moment where Pirlo brought us something that our kids will watch. Right? He was such a special player. It's it's rainy game. He literally storms off the field, and I wish I brought in the clips for the audio clips for those
We
games.
had a
But
lot of like last minute wins against Torino, like the one where Quadrados
that's right.
scores with
Quadrado
his
last
heart.
minute against Torino in 2015. It was maybe less dramatic than the Pirlo one, but it was also a huge mental icebreaker. It
Yeah,
changed our season, and we won 15 consecutive games
yep,
afterwards.
I
You're
remember
absolutely
that one.
right. Many people don't like Quadrado nowadays, but he did contribute. You know, the man
Big
moved
time.
on. We should also, right?
Big time. People have short memories and they can't just like, dude, it's completely fine. Okay, you brought up Pirlo. Pirlo was in Milan, and people forget that they beat us for their Champions League win.
Mhm.
Okay, like now then he came to Juve and made the fortunes of Juve. it's sports. It's professional
Yeah.
sport. Deal with it.
He didn't choose it. He was let go. He had to go somewhere, pay his bills, and feed his family. It wasn't really cool of our fans to boo him in the last game. If you remember, what does he play for now? He's moved on from Inter. I forget where he's at.
I think he's still at Inter. But
No, he's
no?
he's in a different. If you want to Google it, meanwhile, but it's kind of embarrassing that I don't know that. But anyways, fans were not very kind to him. Every time he touched the ball, there was a boo.
Atalanta. Another
Where
black and blue. So Atalanta, not Inter.
Atalanta, yeah, that's right. So another Reddit commenter says it wasn't very last minute ish, but I loved Vucinic's goal against Milan in 2011, and Vucinic has been brought up last couple of times on the pod, and kind of a underrated baller, right?
Osvaldo with
That's one of
the
the answers.
Conte. I think, was it Conte's first or second Scudetto? Was it a Lecce or it was like a Provinciale team?
Oh, brother, you don't remember this goal? It was one of my favorite goals. That's when we were going for a points record. We officially, after this game, after this last minute goal of Daniel Osvaldo against his former team Roma,
Oh, okay.
we earned the record breaking number of points, which is 102. Right? There was a famous. We went. I think it was across Europe. That was the biggest number of points ever. Daniel Osvaldo scoring that goal, going to the bench, celebrate. That was magnificent.
I think I texted you when I was coming back from Italy last October. I bumped into Osvaldo at the business lounge at Malpensa.
No way.
Yeah, he was just chilling there with like a buddy of his, just taking a selfie, and I was like, "That's Osvaldo. Cool. I'm late. Gotta go."
So you met him in Turin, you said? Sorry, I missed
No, in the business class lounge
Oh, I
at
see.
Malpensa. When I was flying, I was just coming back home from
I
Europe
see. I see.
last October.
On that subject, airport lounges are so sweet, aren't they? You can take yourself off mute. The sound is not loud, but anyway, love me an airport lounge. The
Big
one in
time.
Istanbul,
Oh.
brother.
Yeah,
Um,
and like when you travel and you go to like an international airport that's with it, man, it's fun. Because here in the U.S., there's a few lounges that are like sketchy, others are pretty nice, but yeah, man, it just makes travel so much more relaxing.
absolutely, and more expensive. Juventus, far underscore odd commented Juventus Napoli 2019. Koulibaly own goal, perfect timing.
Oh yeah,
It's one of those goals that I know I should be just relishing in it, but I feel kind of bad.
not at all. That was so good.
I know. Was it
It
4-3
broke
or
them,
three
man. I
two?
swear.
It was the second game. It was the opening game at the Juventus Stadium for that season, and it just imagine you're 3-3, and then the last kick of the game, and out of all people, the amazing Koulibaly, which he's not so amazing anymore, but back then he was on top of his game, and he just lets in a stinker, an own goal. Giovanni disappeared somewhere.
Yeah,
There
I
he
disappeared because I needed to blow my nose, and I wasn't about to do it on
is.
video.
Oh man, that's actually one of my pet peeves. People doing it in front of everyone. People
Yeah,
at work
no,
always do it. I appreciate you.
yeah, of course,
Uh,
man, manners. Talking about Napoli, I don't think this was a last minute goal, but it was getting towards like the end of the game, and it was, oh god, I forget the striker's name, the bald guy.
Pepe.
Who?
Pepe. No, that
No,
was a
no, not
tie.
Pepe. He's the guy that fucked up the penalty. Uh,
Zaza.
Zaza. It
That's
was the
actually one of
Valentine's
the
Day game.
replies.
Zaza.
One of the
That was
replies.
that was amazing.
That was that was a fight for a title. It was one of those
Oh yeah,
times where it was a huge goal. And if you look at the goal, it's one of those deflections that is so barely noticeable,
barely.
but there's a reason why you see what's his name, Simone, the goalkeeper, Pepe. No, he's not Simone. He's Pepe.
No, who was
Played for Real Madrid even.
Pepe Reina?
Pepe Reina, there you go. You can see him kind of trying to swat the ball away, but he
Never.
was going one way, and at the last second, the deflection. That was what I think the best play of Zaza's career.
Yeah,
Wouldn't you say?
yeah,
It's so funny you mentioned the ridiculous run up to the penalty, and the the boy will always be remembered for that ridiculous miss, right? Uh, Someone's going old school here. Current coach Tudor versus Deportivo.
oh my God, that was
Champions League 2003,
ages
Juventus
ago.
3, Deportivo 2. It was I want to give shout outs to Dom Flores. It was a pretty special for me. Um, Hold on, I closed the reply. Ah, crap. Tudor versus Deportivo in 2003. It was a pretty special for me because it was my birthday. If Juventus tied that match, they would be virtually eliminated from Champions League. At the end, they ended up reaching the final, eliminating both undefeated Barcelona and Real Madrid Galacticos. Yeah, that goal kind of made a resurgence when we signed Tudor to take over the team for the rest of the season. People uh, who wanted to reminisce and give people an idea of how much of a Juventino he was. And I think we even posted it on our Instagram as well. So that was a famous last minute goal as well. We are plugging along, reaching the end here.
I have one
Uh,
last one, which I think is the um last. I think it was like extra time goal of Marcelo Zalaeta against Arsenal in, I want to say, 2002 or 2001 in Champions League.
yeah, Champions League last minute goals are so much better than anything else, right?
Oh, 100%.
Who else is here? Sorry. Let's see. Marshall Clayton is asking, does 82nd minute count? If yes, ADP against Lazio in 2011, 2012 from a free kick
Oh,
was an
100%.
insane goal. Yep, I mean, I'll say that
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 helped us get
fits.
us the Scudetto, man, and it was like people were ready to forget Del Piero.
Me being an idiot, an unorganized idiot, I forgot to tape this game, and I never got to see that. But it was certainly we needed 3 points, and just shows you that Del Piero was contributing up until the last season. I think the most beautiful goal, the most beautiful last minute winner comes from Douglas Costa against Lokomotiv Moscow. Do you guys remember that run? The little behind the leg move, and going against maybe three players, and then kind of like last second toe poke into the corner got us to 3 points in the Champions League. I think we were wearing those famous blue kits.
Yeah, Douglas Costa. I remember that one. That was a good goal.
Dybala against Lazio, 17-18. That was when he was just being pulled apart and kind of falling backwards, but he still managed to squeeze it in the top corner. That was great. Trevor, 3x. God, there's so many great moments that people have already mentioned, but I want to mention Pogba's first goal, last minute winner against Bologna, will always be special for me. That was the day I fell in love with the kid. Sigh. Good times, right? Uh, just about done here. Since we're talking about the glory days of Juve, um, I mentioned this on the last couple of podcasts. I don't remember when, but I said that rebuilds and cycles happen in football, of course. Some great teams can be crap. Do you think Juve have, how do I phrase that? We're done messing around, right? We're done being the banter team. The cycle needs to come to an end ASAP, right? Even the most patient of fans, which I consider myself a patient fan. As I grow older, I realize that it's just a game. You sit back and enjoy. There's nothing you can do. But even now, I'm getting a little restless, and I think that Juve needs to stop with this, with experimenting, and bring Juve to the glory days. To finish this awesome episode of this podcast, I want to hear your opinion of, should we be patient more, or what's next for Juve in your opinion?
I mean, I think you need to be patient as long as you got to be patient. I think we just got used to Juventus just being consistently good. And, I think most of the fans that are listeners of this podcast weren't alive for, a lot of really long dry spells. And so with that, right, I think people are not, it kind of sucks, right? You're kind of like, hey, man, like, what's in it for me? I want to see a winner. I'll say that.
Let's be honest; those fans moved on.
Well, I'll say this, right, just to respond to your question. I think Juventus needs to just start with foundational things, right? I think everybody is like, the Champions League is important because it brings in money, and I get that. And I hate the fact that a lot of things are predicated on like going far on the Champions League, but
Yeah.
I think we need to, as they say here in like American sports, we need to eat our veggies. And so we need to start building a foundational team with foundational players. And those are the ones that they don't move. And then you, as a scouting department, as a sporting director, you identify who those are and you keep them and you build around them. Is it Thuram? Great. Is it Gatti? Okay. Is it Yildiz? Fine. But then I think you need to find a coach that is able to get like, I think I will always say that a team, 95% of wins are on the team, it's not on the coach, but that 5% is critical, right? It can take a draw to a win and a loss to a draw, right? So who is that coach? I don't know. I know we discussed that on a couple of episodes ago with Patrick, but I think the next, the big hire for Juve in the offseason is going to be less on the players and who's the coach. So, yeah.
It's so funny you mentioned Patrick, and he was a great co-host when we did an episode last with you and Patrick. He sent us a question. I was like, dude, you're on the podcast. This was the question: who is a no-brainer for you that Juventus needs to target and bring in? And I'm like, Patrick, is that you? So he private messages on Instagram. What's your deal with Andrea Agnelli? For those, I don't know if you've answered. I don't know if we discussed it on the podcast you were on, but I'm a big proponent of him coming back. He embodies Juve. You cannot deny that he's made some mistakes when marketing and look at me wearing the hoodie with the new emblem and with the logo that many people still cannot get behind. But he did great. He did a lot of great things for Juve as well. He's trying to make his way back to Juventus to bring them back in from the banter era. You with it? What does he need to do? First things that needs to be done. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we talked about it and I think the last pod that I was on, but just to kind of like reiterate, honestly, it doesn't matter to me. Like, and who the president is has got less bearings on wins and losses than who's on the roster, who's the coach. let's focus on who the coach is and then who the team is, and then maybe we can debate whether Agnelli needs to come back or not, right? It's like Juventus is still under an Agnelli holding, right? Like John Alkin is an Agnelli. So honestly, like if he's to make it back, great. If he doesn't, that's fine. I don't give a shit. Honestly.
Interesting. All right. Well, I don't know. I do want him back. Giovanni, you're rocking the Turin Giants merchandise. You guys, the website was down for a couple of weeks, but it is back on turingiants.com. Please support the podcast, and besides that, just look fresh. We got some good stuff there, man. It's so funny because while the website was gone, I was still selling merchandise. Like I don't know how people found information about the Dele Alpi shirt that you're wearing. I don't know if you want to turn around the show, but that's fine. You don't have to.
You can see it, but
there you go, Dele Alpi in black, baby. Please, TurinGiants.com. Stuff is so good. Please check us out. DM me if you have any ideas. But yeah, check it out. All right. This has been the longest podcast I've been done in a while. An hour and a half, baby. Everyone, thank you so much for your questions. Thank you so much for watching / listening to us. Giovanni, Don's long gone, but Gio, good to see you, buddy. We have I should probably discuss with you off the air, but there's a man whose name escapes me. I don't want to search on Twitter right now. I'm DMing him. He created a book. He released a book of how great calcio was in the 90s. And it's a beautiful book with pictures and something you can set on your I'm a big fan of coffee table books. So what's better for this podcast than talking about Serie A in the 90s with a guy who wrote the book? So I would love for you to be on this podcast because it will be basically trip down the memory lane.
Golden age, man.
Golden age of Italian football. It was beautiful. It was, but I would love for you to be on it. So I'm putting you on the spot when the man that I don't know his name. When he comes on, I want you to be on it as well. It's going to be a great episode. So special edition of that coming up. Post Bologna episode coming up. Episode number 300 coming up. It's a huge deal for us. Actually, Zach, I think Zach is the only podcast co-host that I haven't given a shout out to. He said that we should definitely do something special for episode 300. And even if you cannot be on the big podcast, I would love to record separate segments with all the co-hosts that have supported us throughout the years.
Yeah, man, sounds good.
Would love to have you on. Let me just prepare the outro here. I think we'll just do the old intro. Giovanni, love you, buddy. I'll talk to you later, okay?
Sounds good, man. Take it easy.
Everybody, as always, stay hydrated, check on your friends, and Forza Juve. I love these reactions. Italian commentators. This one.
Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out. I want to get the fuck out of here. Come on, let's get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
Get the fuck out of here.
Oh, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.